think the limits are too that way.
That area is more fertile for genetic growth.
All right, so I have an idea that everybody in this room right now is going to go extinct. This idea that humanity itself is going to go extinct. We're kind of spoiled in our position as the top of the food chain, but I want to challenge that notion. I don't think that we're always going to stay the same. I think humans are going to evolve in ways that are literally going to blow your minds. And mine too, so let's look at that a little bit. So our ancestry, humans only differ by 1.2% of their DNA from bonobos and chimps. That tiny difference tripled our brain volume, right? So genes are really powerful. And that small difference, it allowed us to create language, abstract thought. We could make tools vastly superior to any other species. We have a descendant larynx, which enables us to speak with the elegance and detail that no other animal can match. And we have artistic vision. We can recognize beauty. That's a strange thing. We have emotional depth and a spiritual proclivity that's cross-cultural around the whole world, right? So we're pretty special organisms. Nevertheless, our society is, it's due to these rare geniuses, right? Everything we use right now, the projector, the lights, the linoleum, we live in a world crafted by geniuses. So even though humans are smart, we live in a society that kind of indicates that we're smarter than we really are. It's an interesting thing to think about. So if you look at natural evolution, it's active in humans right now because we're losing our wisdom teeth and we're acquiring the ability to digest lactose. That's this molecule here. And it's being acquired sporadically. Only 30% of people from Africa can actually drink milk. So, but 9% of our genes are rapidly evolving, the rapidly in the quotation marks because it's rapid on an evolutionary scale. It's still not as quick as the things we're going to talk about later. But they're pertaining to immunity, perception, and reproduction. So others predict racial homogeny. As time goes on, we'll all eventually become the same race, and people think that we might lose our little toes. I guess they're kind of useless. So this all happens very slowly, right? Evolution is something that takes place on the order of hundreds of millions of years.
Do you know like what specifically, like the 9%, what specifically like would you say like reproduction and like perception of immunity? What do you like? What do you mean?
Well, I read it in an article, and I am not 100% sure what it means. I didn't go into it in too much detail, but yeah. So, natural evolution's been useful in facilitating evolution so far, but we can definitely do better than that, right? With this genetic engineering, Fish was talking about GMOs the other day. And that's kind of where all this stuff got started. You got some tomatoes here that are becoming more resistant to pests. Luciferase from fireflies, the gene's being inserted into a tobacco plant and it can glow. That's pretty cool. So genetic engineering is the deliberate manipulation of genes to create organisms with new abilities and traits. It can be achieved with gene therapy and retroviruses. So you can create more resistant crops. I already talked about that. Joe Cien was a neuroscientist who flipped one gene in mice. And there's a picture of one of his mice. They're super intelligent. He just flipped one gene and it created a greater NMDA production, which is a neurotransmitter. So these mice are a lot smarter than normal mice just with one flip of a gene. Imagine if we did that to us, right? But that's not where it has to stop. There's so much potential. So the benefits of genetic engineering to humans are we would be able to redesign our own biology. We wouldn't have to wait for nature to figure it out. We could just get in the driver's seat and build our own bodies however we wanted. So this could lead to vastly extended lifespans, enhanced immune systems, improved senses, and greater physical abilities. But the most important facet of human evolution this could facilitate is that we could redesign our own brain architecture, which could enable superhuman forms of intelligence. Very fascinating. Prefrontal cortex is rather small. It's a couple inches thick. What that's enabled us to do is build rockets and all kinds of languages and symphonies. So who knows what could happen if we tweak this more, right? It could be really exciting. Okay, so there are a couple drawbacks to genetic engineering, and they pertain to ethics. So, should partial humans have rights? If we're able to create new organisms, like these guys, Jeremy Rifkin and Stuart Newman, they try to apply for a patent on a human-chimpanzee hybrid. They call it the humanzee. Should that thing have rights? And if it should, who's going to protect this new organism from exploitation, right? Menial labor, if anyone's ever read Brave New World, you can have a docile workforce engineered to be ruled, right? So that's kind of a scary thing to think about. Going the exact flip side, if you created an organism that's far more intelligent than a human being, should it still have to abide by our laws? If you put that in context, that'd be like us being stuck into a society of chimpanzees and being expected to listen to them, obey their laws, right? Which is absurd. So, there's also the fragile nature of genetic balance in a cell. Tampering with genetic biology can easily lead to death. If you don't know what you're doing, the organism's just going to die because it's a very finely tuned system. And one more issue that kind of scares me is that if people can redesign their children's genes, so designer babies, there might eventually become, because the wealthy would of course have that technology first, if there's any prediction on how past trends have gone, there will be a genetic gap between rich and poor, which is very scary. Another approach, completely unrelated, is cybernetic augmentation. So we use these, right? And we use our laptops. Our technology wires us together, right? But it's kind of primitive if you think about it. You still have to hold it in your hand. So somebody came up with this great idea. Why not just graft the computer chips right into our brains, right? So that way you can control technology with your thoughts, right? Instead of actually having to do this hand thing, that's kind of lame. So, one example of this, there's an implant in this monkey's brain, and it's able to manipulate a robotic arm with its mind, which is really interesting. If you think about some of the possible abilities that can be gained, technologically mediated telepathy. You could call people on the phone in your mind. You could surf the web with your mind. You could do your shopping, your banking, all this stuff. Actually, human society would become some one great hub of interconnected minds with signals traveling at the speed of light. So it's a really amazing thing to think about. Our brain has lobes, right, and cortices. I'm proposing that maybe the next cortex we'll see is actually not going to be made of neurons, but out of computer chips, and it'll be specifically engineered such that we can interface with technology mentally. It's a really interesting thing.
Now, does this proposed model, like you make it seem like there will be like a lot more information flowing? Would there still be like a filter system kind of, or like if I thought like, I think Mike's shirt's weird. Like, would you know I thought that right away? Or like,
That's a great. I'm actually going to talk about that a little bit. You'd have to engineer it specifically to be a one-way valve, or yes, people could read your thoughts.
yeah,
Which would be
scary.
Yeah, definitely would be. Yes. So cybernetics will revolutionize human interface with computers and computerized machines as mental intent can control processes and computation. That'll make work so much quicker too. When you go to the office, you'll just think into a computer, do your work in a couple minutes, and go home. It's great. Nanotechnology is going to potentiate this, and when merged with medicine, could enable humans to control their endocrine responses, so their hormones. You could have these implants. If you wanted to go to sleep, you could force your brain to secrete certain hormones. You could basically control your mood with a lot more intent and your overall health. So, really interesting stuff. Of course, you could also increase physical abilities, but I think this stuff's more exciting. So drawbacks, currently these implants, they look like this. They'll create scar tissue when they're implanted in your brain, and that renders them useless. It's a gradual process, but nice thing is scientists in Israel are working on more biocompatible devices that won't cause scar tissue buildup. Another problem is how do you power these devices? So we could perhaps power them with biomolecular input, just like biology itself, ATP and all that stuff. So it's going to require some breakthroughs in nanotechnology as well. Our brains have to learn to use these implants as with any other tool. If you get an implant, you're going to have to learn how to do these things. And we still don't understand the brain itself well, and brain-computer interface technology is extremely technically difficult and still in its infancy. Of course, it's surgically invasive, and thoughts may no longer be private. It's great that he called that out before. So yeah. Taking it even more extreme, we just might not any longer be biological at all. Artificial intelligence may be the future of intelligent races. So artificial intelligence, the creation of machines that are capable of genuine thought, genuine emotion, creativity. So all the subtle nuances of human intellect a true AI would be able to possess. This is Kismet. It's from MIT. It's being trained in social intelligence. Asimov by Honda is trained in environmental navigation. There's other people working on object recognition and voice recognition. And intelligent machines can interact with humans more naturally. So if you're getting frustrated with your computer, you're just like, why won't you work? It'll figure it out. It'll work with you. It'll be a partner instead of just a tool. So our tools are going to kind of, in a sense, come alive. They're going to interact with us and facilitate a completely new dynamic. So what does AI have to do with evolution? Well, like I said, robotic life forms, they might become the most dominant life on the planet. We may invent machines more intelligent than us, which should facilitate the next stage of evolution. This philosophy is called Transhumanism. It was pioneered by this guy, Ray Kurzweil. He's a smart guy. He works for Google. He's the director of engineering, and he graduated from MIT and all that stuff. So really smart guy. And he's predicting this thing called a technological singularity, like a positive feedback loop. When technology gets advanced enough and you create these machines, they can design other machines smarter than them. And this pace just explodes, and technology becomes an unpredictable and rapid growing process. But we might actually merge with machines one day, upload our minds into cyberspace, things like that. So we could actually benefit from this too, depending on how we approach it. Of course, there's drawbacks, right? It would certainly put many humans out of work. That'd probably be the first issue, is that as with any technology, you're going to displace workers, right? And then as machines become intelligent, they might start to demand rights. Is it slavery to make a machine work without compensation if it feels just the same as we do? So these AIs could very easily make us obsolete, and they could wage genocide. So that's kind of a scary thing. We're playing kind of a risky game here. So there is a huge possibility of extinction. Over 99.9% of our species, that have ever existed, are now extinct. So we are almost certainly going to go extinct. We have to evolve or die. Those are our choices. So yeah, I kind of talked about this stuff in my other presentation, how there were 6 massive extinctions, and most of them were caused by global warming. So the thing I'm worried about is that the future can be really exciting, but if we just wipe ourselves out first, it's going to be kind of bad. There's other potential causes of extinction, like eruptions of supervolcanoes, like Yellowstone. It's predicted if Yellowstone blows its top, all of America is basically going to get vaporized. Asteroid strikes, geomagnetic reversal, gamma ray bursts, these are all things. I think the biggest threat to humans is other humans, though. In the 20th century alone, we've killed each other to the amount of about 203 million people via warfare and famine. So we have to watch out for this stuff. The future can be exciting, but we have to approach it deliberately. We need to invest in not only sustainable energy, but sustainable politics, consumerism, and population growth. We need to phase warfare out of the population behavior, or the future will become very precarious as technology keeps moving. Every time we have a technological innovation, the future gets more precarious. We're on our 3rd generation of uranium purification using lasers. We used to use gaseous diffusion with uranium hexafluoride. And now it's possible for terrorists to purify uranium with a couple $1,000. So we need to have our ethical intelligence grow with our technological intelligence. It's really important. And we have to have the courage to press into the unknown, and we need to believe a better tomorrow for our future. So humans are a species. I prefer to look at them as a seed, and they could blossom into a magnificent tree. But if it never grows, it'd be just flat out tragic. We have to make sure that we take care of the world.
Nice. Sweet.